Section 13 of 11 Stories by Henry Hasse. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Cinda J. M. Passage to Planet X, Part 2. He came back to consciousness with a feeling of intolerable weight pressing him down. It was his own weight, he discovered as he tried lifting his head to look around. It was a terrific strain, and he let his head fall back. None of the men were seriously injured. The bulging harness had saved them. They called out to each other, but couldn't move except to roll their heads from side to side. "Professor, did you say a gravity equal to that of Jupiter?" Detham called out. "That or more. And yet this planet has a diameter of scarcely a few hundred miles. Strange." "Strange, he says," came from Driscoll. "What do we do now? Just lay here for the rest of our lives?" "Let's see you do anything else," K'arji said drolly. "Not me," Janice spoke. "You think I'll let this pee-wee world get me down? If I can only get to that tuner control." "I'm afraid this is one kind of gravity it won't counteract," Brownell admitted ruefully. "This world must be condensed as tightly as a white dwarf star. A cubic inch of matter weighing hundreds of pounds." Mark twisted his head around, saw Janice's huge frame struggling to move. He was a powerfully built man. He'd be the one to do it if anyone did. Slowly, minutes at a time, he managed to drag one leg under him and then the other. He brought his hands into position. Sweat broke out on his brow as he rolled himself over on all fours. Then, with a terrific effort, he hoisted himself erect. He stood there, a straddle-legged, red-bearded giant. But only for a second. His legs buckled. He managed to hurl himself toward the starboard port as he slid downward. "At least I can see out now," he gasped. "We did just reach the twilight strip. There's a whole forest of great big green things 30 feet high, sort of like cactus, flat and spiny. They must have helped break our fall." "You said it. I can see a strip for over a mile where we mowed 'em down. Hey, look! For the love of—" Janice's voice dwindled off in amazement. "Damn it, man, how can we look? What is it? What's out there?" "People! Dozens of 'em. They're coming out of the forest. Oh, they've spotted us, but they're not coming over. They're just standing there jabbering and pointing." "People on this world?" Brownell muttered his amazement. "What are they like, Janice? Describe them." "They look kind of savage to me, squat and furry, but they stand erect. Their legs are thick and heavy like an elephant's." "Yes, that would be natural on this world, the terrific gravity." "Gravity doesn't seem to bother them," Janice went on. "Let's see now. Yes, in all other ways they seem to be low evolutionary humans except—" "Good Lord!" "Except what? Damn it, Janice, go on." "They have knobs." "What?" "Knobs growing right out of their foreheads, and they're lit up. The knobs, I mean. Sort of a soft white light." "Another logical development of nature," said the professor. "They live on the dark side, so their bodies manufacture the necessary light. Are they armed?" "They are. Just crude spears and clubs, though. So I guess we're safe enough in here." Oh, here they come. I think they see me." Twisting his head around, Mark could barely see a corner of the window where Janice lay. In the twilight gray beyond, he glimpsed the horde of barbarians rushing at the ship. It seemed fantastic they could move in such gravity, fantastic that any creature could walk. One of them hurled a spear with deadly accuracy. It struck the window and glanced away. Others crowded around, pounding at the glass with clubs, clamoring to get in at Janice, who lay just beyond. "Professor," Janice said wryly, "this isn't very pleasant. Are you sure this glass will hold?" "Don't worry. It'll take more than their pounding to crack 4 inches of crystite." "Hope you're right." A moment later, Janice exclaimed, "Hey, some of these babies have electric rifles." "Good Lord, I see 1, 2, 3, at least a half a dozen of them." "Wait a minute, though. They're only using them as clubs. The metal parts are corroded. Why, those are the old-type electric rifles popular on Earth 200 years ago." "You must be having delusions," came from Ferris. "No, I'm not. I've seen that type of rifle in the museums. Now, how do you suppose they got way out here?" For a few minutes there was silence, broken only by a faint ringing sound as the clubs beat against the thick chrysite. Then Janice announced, "Here come more of 'em out of the forest. They're bringing up the reserves. Hey, this might be serious. They have a new kind of weapon." He peered for a moment into the grayness. "It's a huge thing. Seems to be sort of a combination catapult and crossbow. I don't like the looks of it." A minute later, the first shot came. It struck the spaceship very close to the window. There was a muffled explosion and a flashing blue flame. "By all that's holy! Explosives! Powerful stuff, too. These babies aren't barbarian as they look." "We've got to get away from here some way." Brownell was really worried now. "Janice, do you think you could make it to the controls? Perhaps by dragging yourself?" "I'm sure gonna try." "Wait a minute, though. They're not going to bother us anymore. They're scared." "Scared of what?" "Damned if I know." "They're staring off to the right, jabbering and pointing." "Huh. There they go. They're running away." Driscoll said, "What did you do, Janice? Make a face at 'em? That red beard of yours is enough to scare anybody." "Something's coming." Janice was straining his neck now, his face flat against the glass. "I think I can make it out." "Yes." "Holy blazing comets! What kind of world is this? Get away from there, you! Hey, cut that out!" Janice's voice had risen to an excited pitch. "Get set, men. I think we're leaving here." The ship gave a sudden lurch, and Janice rolled backward. His head hit the floor hard, enough to stun him a little. And now the ship was moving. Not upward. It seemed to be dragging forward over rough terrain. In this tremendous gravity, every slightest jolt bruised them horribly. They could only lie there and take it. After 5 minutes of this, their muscles seemed pounded to a pulp, despite the inflated suits still encasing them. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the movement stopped. There was ominous quiet. Mark, on the brink of unconsciousness, thought he was dreaming when he saw Professor Brownell leap to his feet. Now the other men were stirring. They rose dazedly. Gravity was normal. They crowded excitedly around the windows. Outside was bright daylight, no longer the twilight haze. The barbarian horde wasn't to be seen, nor was that other, whatever it was that Janice had glimpsed. Janice groaned a little and sat up, rubbing his head. They questioned him eagerly. "Maybe I didn't see it," he muttered. "You wouldn't believe me anyway. Gravity's normal, so let's get out of here." And when they pressed their questions, he only shook his head stubbornly. Heedless of their aching muscles, they zipped out of the bulging suits. Mark's hand went instantly to an inside pocket near his heart where he'd placed his secret flat box with the lenses. He was relieved to find that it, at least, was undamaged. Janice was breaking out the weapons. He handed each of them an atomic rifle and neutral pistol. Brownell had taken a sample of the atmosphere and announced it was fit for them. They debarked into a plain where lush yellow grass sprang waist-high. "Strange," Brownell was muttering. He stared back the way they had come. Only a few yards behind them was the twilight zone. It was sharply defined, gray and misty, reaching sheerly up. Yet they stood in bluish daylight, which extended ahead of them to the sharp downward curve of the horizon. Brownell walked slowly back to the twilight zone, gingerly testing the gravity. He entered the zone and fell flat to the ground. Janice leapt to him, dragged him back. "Did you ever see such a thing?" Brownell exclaimed as he rose. "Not only is there a sharp division of light and dark, but half the planet is terrifically heavy while the other half is normal. It defies all laws as we have known them." Janice was peering intently into that grayness, toward the edge of the forest 100 yards away. Suddenly he gripped the professor's arm. His voice came a little hysterically. "I wasn't dreaming it then. I see it. There it is, the thing that grabbed our ship. Don't move, you men, because I swear it's watching us." Gradually they made it out as they stared in the direction of Janice's gaze. It was a huge, bulking shape that towered above the tallest trees. a roughly round metallic body that rested on 4 jointed metal legs, metal arms too, dangled at its side. "A robot?" came in a whisper from Deathman's lips. "A metal robot? But good Lord, look at the size of it!" They were looking. 50 feet above the ground, they could make out its head, semi-spherical, and there were 2 eyes glowing with a greenish light, eyes that must have been large as dinner plates. It stood quite motionless in the gloom near the forest, watching them. "That's the thing that towed us here?" Brownell whispered. "Yes. I just got a bare glimpse of it." "Must be friendly, then. But I wouldn't want to shake hands with it. The thing does seem to be watching us, doesn't it?" "I'll fix it." Ferris suddenly brought his rifle up, took aim at the glowing eyes. Janice whirled, knocked the rifle aside. "You fool! That's an intelligent entity, I tell you. Want to get us killed?" As though it had seen and comprehended the action, the robot's eyes blinked once or twice. It was eerie. Then it raised one of its arms and seemed to gesture, not at them, but beyond them. With that, it turned and stalked away, crashing through the forest. "I get it," Mark said thoughtfully. "It was warning us to stay on our side of the fence." "And that's just what we will do. It's the only place where we can stand up, much less move about." They walked back to the prow of the ship. "Where does this daylight come from?" Brownell was still puzzled. "There's no sun. Seems to me this gravity has something to do with it, too. Say, do you suppose this light—" He never finished, for at that moment they heard a shout ahead of them and saw a group of men approaching. They were tall and straight, clean-shaven, and dressed in trousers and tunics of rough texture but undoubtedly of earth pattern, the pattern which had been popular hundreds of years ago. They carried weapons, too, the old type electric rifles, which were so devastating at close range but not very effective at longer distances. They came warily at first, but smiled when they saw the newcomers were not going to cause trouble. "Greetings," their leader said in perfect English. "You're from Earth? We thought we saw your ship crash and came over to investigate." Janice stepped forward and introduced himself, shook hands. "My name is Donnelly," the other said. He pronounced it that way crisply, running the syllables together. Mark suddenly wondered if this could be a contraction of Donnelly. Donnelly and his men were speechless for a moment, staring in turn at the spaceship, the new type weapons, and Raoul Karji. "Have you never seen a Martian before?" Karji grinned at them in a friendly manner. "Pardon our staring," Donnelly replied. "We have never seen a Martian, nor such a spaceship as this, nor any other world. We have waited long for this. Long." "You've seen no other world, but you are Earthmen." "We have been here always." "I begin to understand," Brownell said. "There are others of you here. Where do you stay?" "Our city is only 50 miles from here. We shall be happy if you accompany us there. We have good roads and surface cars. Our leader, Mari, will explain everything to you." Donnelly paused, glancing nervously into the twilight strip. "You should be of great help to us against the Perlax with your new weapons." "Perlax? Are those the furry creatures with the lights on their heads?" "Yes, we call them that because Perlac is the name they give to the world. They have warred on us for generations. We number a mere 500, and they are thousands." Donnelly looked worried. "And now that the robots are active again, we are in even more danger." "We saw one of those metal giants," Janice exclaimed, "just a few minutes ago." "Yes, we saw it too. We came up just as it was stalking away. It's the first we've ever seen, but we've heard much about them. The stories have been handed down. There is supposed to be a great temple on the dark side where the robots are housed." "More of them?" Mark exclaimed. "I hope they stay over there then." Donnelly shook his head. "This I know. If the robots are roaming again as they did many years ago, none of us will be safe." "Then let's go to your city," Brownell put in. "We should be able to lift Gravs now, if the tuner hasn't been damaged." It hadn't been. In a few minutes they were winging low across the plains to the horizon. The city bore the unusual name of Frel, and lay semicircularly at the foot of a sharply rising hill. People were seen, men and women alike, working in the surrounding fields. Donnelly led them through the main street. The buildings were of a dark substance that might have been earth compressed to concrete hardness. They entered the most imposing of these buildings, and thence to a huge room, which was almost the size of a theater on earth. "Make yourselves at ease," Donnelly said, "while I summon Mari. She will probably be at the laboratories now." "Mari," Driscoll said when Donnelly had gone. "So their leader is a woman? And they have laboratories?" They gazed about them. The curious daylight came through windows of glass or similar material. There were chairs and tables of finely wrought metal. Along one wall were bookcases filled with charts and uniquely bound volumes. There were other volumes, too, which seemed vaguely familiar. Bronwell walked over there. "Look at this! A whole case full of books from Earth. Scientific, technical books, all of them." He read a few of the titles on the faded bindings. "These were all popular hundreds of years ago. And these others," he waved, "are probably the entire recorded history of this people. I'd give anything to look into them." He didn't touch the volumes, but remained thoughtful. Mark, too, was thoughtful. "Frel," he mused. "Strange name for this city. Seems as though it ought to mean something, but I can't quite place it." Donnelly returned soon, accompanied by Mari. She was tall, lithesome, her features classical and still beautiful despite smudges of sweat and grime from the laboratory. Her golden hair was braided into a halo, which gave a queenly appearance, and her eyes were bluer than the strange daylight of this world. Skirt and tight-fitting bodice were of rough texture, but dyed a rich golden color. Involuntarily, the men gasped, but Mari did not mind that or their stares. She seated herself and bade them be seated opposite her. Then she leaned forward, searching their faces. Not until then did they notice that her eyes were cold, suspicious. "You have come from Earth, of course, and Donnelly tells me this strange one is Martian. Who is leader among you?" "Why, I suppose I am," Jenna said. "Either me or Professor Brownell here." "Professor?" Her mind seemed to grope for the meaning. "Ah, that word means a man of scientific learning, does it not?" "In this case, yes," he answered. Brownell spoke softly. "Madam, we come in peace. We want to be friends, and we want to help you if we may. You need have no suspicion of us." "No suspicion?" "You come from the dark side, from the Perlax." She spat the last word venomously. Donnelly, standing there, seemed troubled. He said, "We only found them near the twilight zone. They were most friendly in manner and speech. They seemed—" Man waved a hand, and he was silent. She said, "Men of Earth, you wonder why I'm suspicious? Know then that we observed your ship 5 days ago crossing our land with tremendous speed and heading for the dark side. Why have you waited until now to come here? It could be that you have allied yourselves with the Perlax. Have they sent you here?" There was a moment of stupefied silence. They could scarcely believe that she was serious, but her cold manner assured them of it. Then the answer must have dawned on all of them at once. "Kettrick!" Janus boomed, hoisting his big frame from the chair. "By all that's holy, he did reach here. She must have seen Kettrick's ship." Then he sobered. "But if it was streaking for the dark side, it was surely out of control. Kettrick must be dead by now. To think I'd live to see the day when that man blanked out." Mari had drawn a strange-looking pistol from a belt at her waist. She gestured now with it and said, "Be seated, please. We will talk yet a while. This Kettrick, he is another one from Earth?" "Yes, he came before us. Came alone. We only landed here today, a few hours ago. Believe me, we want no part of those Perlax. We had a little trouble with them." She seemed relieved and satisfied at last. "Forgive my suspicion of you, but where the safety of my people is concerned, I cannot be too careful. We have had trouble with the Perlax always. The greatest trouble is yet to come, and it is brewing fast." She appeared to be marshalling her thoughts. Then she went on. We are the 7th generation of a party of Earth people who arrived here hundreds of years ago. My direct ancestor, Willem Farrell, was leader of that expedition. Our city is named in his honor." "I got it," Mark exclaimed. "She means William Farrell. The Farrell expedition was one of the earliest and most ambitious interstellar attempts. Men had already reached the moon and were trying for Mars. Farrell set out with 100 men and women aboard." 140, Mari corrected. "We have his log here. They missed Mars. Their compasses were wrecked in the asteroids, and they continued outward for months, finally crashing here. We still do not know what planet this is." "You're beyond Pluto," Bronnell told her. "But how could they have survived a crash on this heavy world?" "It is one of the miracles. The records tell of it. They landed near the light. The light at that time encompassed a very small area, only a few miles. Gravity there was normal, but beyond it was very heavy. They investigated the center of light and found the stone." Bronnell was excited. "I suspected something like this. The stone, what is it?" "We still do not know, except that it supplies us with light and normal gravity and a temperate zone very favorable to our crops. It defies our science, and it certainly must have come from somewhere far beyond our solar system. Our ancestors found it deeply buried and dug it out. The moment they did—" "Yes?" "The light from it spread slowly, very slowly. In about 10 years' time, it had encompassed this entire hemisphere, stopped only by the sharp curvature of the planet." "And as the light spread outward, the heavy gravity vanished?" "That is true. We have the stone now atop our hill, which is the highest spot. Our ancestors, however, had to fight for it time and again. The Perlacs at that time were really savages. They had known of the buried light, but were afraid to approach it. Later, they tried to get the stone, but were always driven back into the darkness. They have warred on us ever since, for generations. In the last few years, they have become very strong. They're using explosives now. I believe that ages ago, long before the first Earthmen came, a civilization existed and died here. The present Perlacs must have discovered remnants of an ancient science and are slowly reviving it." There was a moment of silence. Janice took advantage of it to hand his atomic rifle to the girl and his neutro pistol as well. "Have you ever seen weapons like these?" She examined them excitedly, especially the neutro pistol. "Donnelly, look at this." She pointed at the firing coils. "It seems to be the same principle we're working on." "Do you mean to say you're trying to invent a neutro gun?" Janice was amazed. "Yes," Donnelly answered. "We've been working on it for the past several years, but it's been slow and hard, sometimes disastrous." He stepped to a bookcase, brought out one of the ancient volumes. It was Sperlin's Evolution and Control of the Free Electron. "We've worked from the principles set forth here," Donnelly explained, "and with some slight measure of success. But we feel that we're treading on dangerous ground. Only a few months ago, one of our laboratories was blown up and 4 men killed." Bronnell nodded. "Even when Sperlin wrote that book, there was no real control of the electron. It came later. Anyway, we can help you now. We have the real models here to work from. Would you like to see these guns in operation?" It was a needless question. They repaired outside, where Janice demonstrated the atomic rifle first, aiming at a harmless clump of bushes some 50 yards away. The atomic pellet struck and exploded, leaving a miniature crater. "That," Bronnell said, "is an example of uncontrolled atomic explosion. Rather crude, but it serves its purpose. Now, let us observe a refinement of it. Controlled electronic action." Janice aimed the pistol. A bluish, pencil-thin ray leapt forth. Where it touched, substance vanished into a froth of flame. The ground itself became incandescent glass. The ray remained constant so long as his finger touched the firing stud. Mari was excited. "Then you will help us perfect ours?" "The Perlacs are becoming stronger than we ever have known them, and whenever they start scouting the Twilight Zone, it means trouble. Donnelly tells me the robots are active again, too." "We can and will help you," Bronnell assured her. "I doubt if those overgrown robots will stand up long under an electronic ray." The professor was eager to see the stone, and Mari graciously accompanied him to the crest of the hill where it was housed. The others, meanwhile, went with Donley on a tour of the shops and laboratories. End of section 13.